So work has finally commenced on Studio 3.0. Something that was promised a while ago. However, one that's now just finally starting to take shape due to various different things. The fun part about this is that you'll literally get to see the evolution of the process as it kind of fills out. There's a lot of white wall right here. White walls! But hey, this has all been a lot of fun. Getting to see this happen kind of as it happens. But what about a little mandatory fun? You know, of the Weird Al variety. I remember 2 years ago, whenever Alpocalypse came out, you guys, the Cover Killer Nation, wondered why I didn't cover it. And to be perfectly honest with you, I'm not quite sure. I look back on that and realize that that was probably a huge opportunity wasted, considering Weird Al is, you know, a terrific artist, someone who is really able to, you know, do great parodies and really just entertain literally millions and millions of people, and he's done so for more than 30 years. Who needs those? So, with his new album, Mandatory Fun, it's really something that I'm not going to make the mistake once again. Instead, I'm going to rectify my previous errors, and I'm going to talk about it. So, Mandatory Fun is going to be parodying and making fun, making light of a couple of very big hit songs over the course of the past year, such as Radioactive by the Imagine Dragons, we also have Happy by Pharrell Williams, which was transformed into Tacky. Radioactive was turned just into Inactive. We have Handy instead of Fancy by Iggy Azalea, and we also have Blurred Lines, which has been transformed into Word Crimes, of course Blurred Lines done by Robin Thicke. Now, there's a Polka as well, but that's a Weird Al standard for one, and we'll get into that a little bit later. Now, what is there really that can be reviewed about a Weird Al album? What quantifiable judgments really need to be cast in order to kind of tell whether or not this is a good one or a bad one? Well, with the Weird Al album, it's all about the punchlines. It's all about how tight everything sounds. And there is actually a little bit of songwriting that you have to actually take into account, considering Weird Al and his band do originals as well. Now, these are style parodies as opposed to, you know, lyrical, you know, direct parodies. So instead of this being something where they're directly trying to, you know, use a song and then implement their own lyrics, they're instead looking at the style of an artist, such as a Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young with Mission Statement, or In My Eyes, which is a parody of Foo Fighters, and they're instead using that style as their own as a way to kind of parody an entire band's work, or, you know, a certain sound from a certain song without directly trying to rewrite the track. And it's something that does work out very, very nicely, but Weird Al himself, with the, you know, reports of this album coming out, felt as though perhaps it would seem a little bit dated. Considering you're doing artists such as Southern Culture on the Skids, the Foo Fighters, Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young, and Cat Stevens with the epic finale Jackson Park Express, it's definitely a lot of names that people of this generation don't instantly recognize. So it was kind of feeling that perhaps the original content would seem a little bit weak. But it really isn't. In fact, it's his lyricism that really ties it all together. And a couple of these, the stylistic parody is definitely very dead-on and very easy to pick up right away. I mean, just by listening to In My Eyes, you could easily tell that this was something that was more geared toward the Foo Fighters. It even has a sound of, you know, Easy for You to Say. I forget if that's the title of that song or not. I hear it on the radio and hear that line, and that's immediately what I thought about. The Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young was kind of interesting with Mission Statement, considering I remember a track that he had off of Bad Hair Day, which was a cover of an REM song. It was entitled Syndicated Incorporated. And it kind of threw me through that same vibe, considering it has kind of this really decorated lyricism to it, this very decorated language. It's basically a mockery of every, you know, big company mission statement that you see, perhaps written on a placard board, either that or, you know, given to you whenever you're about to sit in for some sort of important corporate gathering. And it's a very, very stylish way of doing it, because instead of, you know, mocking it in a way in which you're implementing, you know, really negative language, either that or, you know, punny language such as a, you know, dick or fart joke. He's instead just literally singing what you would probably see in a mission statement, and it's complete with the corporatese, you know, the language of the corporations. So it's a really nice take there. The parodies are all very strong. The only one I was actually a little disappointed with was Inactive, the Imagine Dragons one. And I think this is one that's going to grow on me, but I think what actually ties it together and brings it home is the fact that I know somebody that kind of fills this little ideal. And that's really kind of, it's creepy how much they kind of relate to one another, all the way down to the use of the inhaler. And I also think that, Weird Al was using the same filter that, or the same fat suit that he used in the song Fat from the 1980s in order to do the singing for this, because there definitely sounds like there's a little bit of that smudgy fat face effect, with a little bit of the lisp going on, which is actually kind of a nice touch. So maybe this is one that I was disappointed about because I felt it could be better, but the subtle little touches that surround the track actually bring it all together and makes it a very viable cover. Handy is not necessarily performed this way off of Alpocalypse, where it's going to perhaps cause the decorated amount of criticism, either that or controversy, that perhaps Performed This Way did. Many people thought that Lady Gaga was not cool with him, doing this to her song at all, when in actuality she was. It maybe doesn't have that same level of panache, that same, real opening, jive or jump. It doesn't exactly springboard you into the album the way that Performed This Way may have. However, this is still one heck of a cover, and it's off of a song that's, ironically enough, just as basic. And, I'm not a big fan of the original, but Weird Al's version is definitely cool. I dig it. I really also enjoy Word Crimes, principally because somehow he was able to take Blurred Lines, which is a very, machismo, very masculine song toward women, and he was able to transform it into something that you could literally teach to a group of students. I had actually a trio of teenagers that were in the store whenever I was playing this album, and to be perfectly honest with you, the one was kind of like, what the hell is this? And I said, and actually his other two friends said, it's Weird Al Yankovic. He's like, oh, this stinks. And I said, yeah, of course it stinks. It's the one Weird Al song where you're actually, learning something, as opposed to, just taking in senseless nonsense. Weird Al's all about the education. If you listen to a lot of his tracks, they're very linguistically solid. Not to mention the puns are very well constructed. And finally, it's just good old-fashioned family fun. If that dickhole couldn't realize it, well, that's principally because he's got a Call of Duty freaking sniper rifle stuck up his ass with a brony cap on. And, bro, come on, bro. Anyhow, the polka. We finally have to talk about the polka. And this is definitely a huge, huge strength for this album. Just whenever you look at the lineup of songs that are included on this, and I'm not going to, tell you all of them. That way there's a couple of surprises for you whenever you actually pick up the album. But whenever you think about going from, the best song ever, from Pumped Up Kicks, which all was led in by Wrecking Ball by Miley Cyrus, Pumped Up Kicks being by Foster the People. Of course, best song ever, which is One Direction, I believe. But then you also have tracks such as Get Lucky from Daft Punk, either that or Timber from Pitbull and Kesha. Let me just say this once more time. Weird Al Yankovic made a Pitbull song sound viable and good to me. I'm not going to go out and listen to the original based upon this, but I'm going to listen to the fuck out of this parody because it's amazing. It's great. It's something where he's doing just Kesha's line. He's not doing anything from Pitbull. However, it's enough to really give it that little vibe, that lightheartedness that really you don't get from the song itself. Even though it's supposed to be a party anthem, I feel as though Pitbull and Kesha take themselves so damn seriously in this, even though it's one that's presented with, a little, tits and cream, style to it. Other tracks on there include Somebody That I Used to Know by Gautier, as well as Call Me Maybe by Carly Rae Jepsen. It definitely seems like the internet has been kind to Weird Al, because literally some of these polka inserts have just wrote themselves and showcased themselves as popular little buys. And every single tie-in this generation is going to understand, because we've all lived through all of those hypes and that phenomenon. And that's what makes Weird Al truly so gifted and so talented as a songwriter, because he's able to take things that are in the moment, he's able to put his own spin on them, whether it be through a polka or whether it be through a parody, and it just feels fresh all over again. Nothing about this feels very, very forced. It doesn't feel as though he's trying to resurrect these songs. He's instead just, he's Patch Adamsing these songs. He's giving them a smile once again. Overall, this album is definitely worth picking up. Mandatory fun is exactly as advertised. This is a lot of fun to listen to, and there's going to be some curveballs in here. I did not expect the last track the Jackson Park Express to be 9 minutes long, really parody Cat Stevens in a way, and really just tell this, strange and twisted story about a man who gets onto a bus and locks eyes with a young lady and literally sees, a future that involves falling in love, having kids, and protecting them from things such as, trigonometry and prime numbers. And it's just one that has great twists and turns, some creepy moments, which Weird Al is definitely known for. And in the end, they, of course, don't work out, considering, her stop comes up. It's that light-hearted, simple humor, stuff that we overlook all the time or see as nothing, that Weird Al is able to breathe life into and instantly make it appealing. So definitely check out Mandatory Fun. This is one that needs no score. This is one that needs only the, exposure, the praise, understanding that this is good music for somebody who has a great sense of humor. If you're a deadpan, dumbass that has zero sense of humor and doesn't understand, the basic philosophies of comedy, then you're not going to get it. And this isn't for you. And you probably should, think about your life a little bit, because you've made some bad choices. But for the rest of us, here's a Weird Al album to enjoy. So enjoy it.